All right, welcome to video one or lecture one on political parties. All right, so let's get started. First, we haven't talked about interest groups yet, but I do want to go ahead and start getting this clarification and this distinction between interest groups and political parties out there so you can get it in your head. We will revisit this when we talk interest groups when we in the next unit. But political parties, that's an organization of people who seek to influence public policy by getting their members elected to public office. So this is about winning an election versus actually dealing with policy. So we are trying to get win elections to influence the policy, whereas special interest groups or SIGs, SIGs, those are just an organization of people who seek to influence public policy. Like they're going to work to influence the public policy. They are not concerned with the election so much. Like they want policy passed that's either beneficial to them, or it's harmful to somebody else. Like, they want public policy for them. Whereas a political party, it's about we want to win an election and then we'll try to influence public policy. So, political party functions in the United States. First and foremost, they are there to clarify and limit choice. So, limited choice. So, first off, we're the two-party system. And when we talk about running for office, if we just said, who wants to run for, president? Think about this past year, we had 25, 28, Democratic candidates on the ballot. If there wasn't a political party, it could be 35 plus people on the ballot that you're choosing from. So political parties help to limit the choices, narrow down how many you're going to pick from. It also helps clarify them. So they're going to help vet them. They're going to kind of help individuals figure out who their candidate is based on a wide variety of things. They are there to help recruit candidates. So they're going out looking for people to recruit for office. They, the local organizations are going to find people for local offices. Eventually, those individuals may, get tapped by the state office, the state political party to run for state offices, and then eventually potentially up to a national office. But they're there to find recruiting candidates. A great example of this would be Barack Obama from the 2004 Democratic National Convention. That he showed a lot of potential, and so they worked to recruit him for presidential candidate. It also is there to provide voter cues on how they're supposed to vote and the issues that they should care about. So political parties are going to address certain issues. That's going to give cues to the voters on the issues that they should maybe care about or maybe not care about. Maybe based on what they're putting out there, they don't, they're cueing the voter not to make that issue is not a big issue. They also are providing other information to voters. They're going to provide information on the candidates and the character of the candidate and what is at stake for their party, so forth and so on. So they're going to do this through with a party platform, which typically lists the issues that that are important to them, how they would like to address them, the solutions to those problems. Voter mobilization. So political parties also help for voter mobilization. So getting voters mobilized, getting them to the polls, encouraging them to get out and vote, that it's, so important to get out and vote. These issues are at stake, and if you don't vote, then we're going to lose on these issues. That can really motivate people to show up to polls. They also will provide campaign support. So they provide support for the campaigns of the various people who are running on their party ticket. And that they're going to help with fundraising. So they can do fundraisers in which part of the money goes to the political party, part of the money goes to the candidates that are there. And they can also fundraise to help create ads in support of the candidates. They will provide training, so helping the candidates know how to run an election, how to behave, how to answer questions, what the job will entail, the training that they will need, the type of connections, and those sorts of things. Media, they can help generate media interest in a campaign. They can reach out to various media sources, let them know of certain issues or events that are happening because they've put them on. They will do what's called opposition research, and that is something that wasn't talked a whole lot about in 2020, but was talked about a lot in 2016, this opposition research. So this is where you go out and you research the opposing candidate, and see what they're about. Are their skeletons potentially? Is there a scandal in their history, per se, that we need to know about? Do they have some, connections to people? Is there something hinky going on that we can exploit through advertising, through our debate remarks, etc.? And finally is going to be data management. So they're going to manage all the data that is coming in for those campaigns. So you are getting donor information, you're getting names, you're getting addresses, you're getting email addresses, phone numbers, you're getting, how much they donated. There's a ton of data that they have to manage. So not just on contact with voters, but polling data as well, because every campaign is doing their own internal data or their internal polling, getting their own numbers. Where is their candidate strongest at? Where is their candidate weakest at? How can we craft our message for the campaign? Help them craft their message to attract certain voters or pull voters in. And finally, tech support. So they're going to help, provide tech support for websites, for fundraising sites, phone banks, those sorts of things. The key constituencies on our parties. So when we talk Republicans, that is the conservatives, that's on the conservative side of the spectrum. You first have the ideological conservatives. So when they take ideological quizzes, like you have done, they end up in the conservative column, either by fiscal conservative. You can be a fiscal conservative. This is going to be an individual that is going to be fiscal for tax policy, so lower taxes or as low as taxes as possible. You want businesses to be able to be free from regulations, those sorts of things. So fiscal is going to be the economy and taxes, and they're going to be much more conservative. Very much the government doesn't get involved in that. And then you have social conservatives, in which we're talking the social issues. So gay marriage, abortion, the environment, like the Green New Deal, oh God, there's just one, marijuana, that's it. Those social issues that they're conservative on, and they think the government should be much more involved and regulatory on those areas. There are some conservatives that are only ideological conservatives on one of those issues. There's a lot of moderate individuals in this country that are fiscally conservative, but socially they are liberal, which I'll reiterate when we get to the Democrats. There's the libertarians. Libertarians are like, government needs to stay out as much as possible of our lives, fiscally, socially, leave us to our freedoms. The less rules and regulations we have, especially from the federal government, the better. Libertarians very much believe that tax is theft, but they also are like, they have a very liberal viewpoint on gay marriage and abortion and what's the other, marijuana. Business tends to be in the Republican category. So if you are a business owner, you tend to be Republican, but that has to go with the fact that the Republicans tend to not want a lot of regulations on government or on businesses. They feel like businesses should regulate themselves and society should regulate, meaning if they are doing something that we as a society don't agree with, then we just don't buy their product. We don't like support that business. So business tends to fall into the Republican category. The religious right, these are the evangelicals. They're very, very on social issues, very, very conservative. And so the religious right is tied up with, or is connected, I shouldn't say tied up, but connected to the Republicans very much. The key constituencies for the Democrats, first off, you've got the ideological liberals. So on the ideological scale, they are on the left side, left of center. And of course, that's a fairly large area. So you can have fiscal liberals, meaning the government needs to step in and have higher taxes. They need to have more regulations on businesses to make sure that they are being good stewards and are, the what some of those regulations. So work conditions, labor cost, those sorts of things. So if you're going to be fiscal liberals, you tend to be pro-union as well. Not that Republicans are not, but it's much more on the liberal side because of the fiscal side. But when we talk Democrats or the Republicans on fiscal conservatives, I do want to make this clear. It's not that they don't think that people should have a safe work environment or they should have a living wage. They just say it's not on government to dictate those. It is on the government to do those, or society, the people put pressure on them. So the Democrats say, if you're fiscal liberal, then the government should be making sure that is happening. You can also be social liberal. So the government will tend to not put a lot of regulations on a lot of the social issues unless it's about addressing discrimination or addressing equality. But for the most part, government should not be telling people they can't get married. The government should not be interfering in like a woman's right to choose with abortion. Government should be a little more hands off on, not as involved with marijuana. The marijuana should be a state issue, or let people choose, or let the states choose, or local communities choose on that one. And marijuana is an issue where the Democrats were up until 8 years ago, actually, no, not even 8 years ago. Yeah, probably about 8 years ago, that, they kind of changed their tune on. Originally, they were not for legalization. At the beginning of like Barack Obama's term in 2008, they were not for legalization of marijuana. They also were not necessarily in favor of legalizing gay marriage, but the party did come around because they saw that as a way to get some more voters, expanding their voter bloc. You have organized labor. So this is your labor unions. They tend to be Democrat, partly because they feel that the Democratic Party, the pro safe work conditions, or making government involved in ensuring safe work conditions, I should say, fair wages, a living wage, those sorts of things. Organized labor is going to provide those. Government workers tend to be Democrat, just because the okay, so government workers tend to be in the Democratic constituency because Democrats typically have a policies that will expand government. They do a lot more infrastructure work, which will cause to expand the voter work base. So they're going to be they tend to fall into that category because they are ensuring kind of some jobs. But oftentimes people are working in government jobs. They are public sector, which means if you have just a high school education or just some college, you will get a better paying job than if you had a college education or a postgraduate education, because you're not going to get the same pay. So lower educated individuals tend to be Democrat, just kind of in demographics in the past. But of course, those demographics can always change. Most racial minorities tend to fall into the Democratic category. They are the group that has in the last several decades been the one trying to promote equality, indiscrimination. There are some pockets in those areas. Cuban Hispanics tend to be Republican versus Democrats because Cuban Hispanics equate Democrats with a lot of their social programs that the Democrats promote as more of a socialism, and a lot of Cubans come from socialism, and they do not, they they are concerned with that move potentially towards socialism, even though the Democrats are not talking full socialism. They just want a stronger safety net. Okay. Whoops. All right, so this is going to end our first part of our political parties lecture. I will start. So get this notes taken care of. If you have any questions, ask me. Bye, guys.